What if I told you that somewhere in America, a man lost nearly 20 years of his life? Not because he was lazy, not because he wasn't intelligent, not because he failed. He lost those years because he kept saying just three words. Maybe tomorrow. Tomorrow. The most dangerous word ever created. Because tomorrow has stolen more dreams than failure ever could. It has stolen businesses that were never started, books that were never written, relationships that were never saved, prayers that were never prayed, lives that were never truly lived. Now let me ask you something. How many times have you promised yourself, I'll start next Monday. I'll chase my dream next year. I'll apply when I feel ready. I'll tell them how I feel later. If you've ever said those words, then this story is about you. Stay until the very end, because one decision made by an ordinary man changed everything. And by the time this story is over, you may never look at the word tomorrow the same way again. Seattle, Washington. Rain tapped softly against apartment windows as another ordinary Monday began. At exactly 6 a.m., David Miller's alarm rang. He reached for his phone, hit snooze. 5 minutes later, snooze again. Another 5 minutes, again. Finally, at 6:25, he climbed out of bed. The first words he whispered to himself were the same ones he'd spoken almost every morning. I'll do better tomorrow. David was 36 years old. He worked as an operations coordinator for a shipping company. The job wasn't terrible. The pay wasn't terrible. His apartment wasn't terrible. His life wasn't terrible. But it wasn't the life he'd imagined. His bedroom walls were decorated with framed motivational quotes. Dream big. Take the leap. Success begins with action. The irony was almost painful, because no one loved motivational quotes more than David, yet no one acted on them less. He poured coffee into his favorite blue mug, opened YouTube, watched another motivational speech, nodded in agreement, closed the video, and did absolutely nothing different. Every single day. Most people at work believed David had no ambition, but they were wrong. Years ago, David had a dream so big, it kept him awake at night. At 18, he wanted to build a logistic company that would help small businesses across America compete with giant corporations. He spent nights drawing delivery routes, business ideas, warehouse layouts, marketing plans. He even designed a logo. He named the company Next Horizon Logistics. He could already imagine trucks carrying his logo across highways. His mother used to smile whenever she caught him working. One evening, she walked into his room carrying 2 mugs of hot chocolate. She looked at the sketches spread across his bed. "You really believe this can happen?" David smiled without hesitation. "I don't believe it." "I know it." She laughed. "Then promise me something." "What?" "When fear shows up, don't listen to it." David nodded confidently. "I won't." Neither of them knew. Fear wouldn't be the thing that stopped him. Waiting would. After high school, David planned to study business administration. His acceptance letter arrived. His mother cried tears of joy. His father shook his hand proudly. Everything was ready. Until one evening, David sat alone on the porch. His best friend Ethan stopped by. "So, when do classes start?" David stared into the distance. "I'm thinking about taking a year off." Ethan frowned. "Why?" "I want to save more money first." "How much do you need?" "I don't know. I just want everything to be perfect before I start." Ethan stayed quiet for a moment. Then he said something simple. "David, life doesn't wait until you're ready." David smiled politely. "I know, but 1 year won't hurt." 1 year became 2. 2 became 5. 5 quietly became 18. Without realizing it, David had already started paying the price of waiting. The shipping warehouse buzzed with activity. Forklifts moved pallets. Machines hummed. Employees rushed from one loading dock to another. David had worked there for 11 years. He knew every hallway, every schedule, every employee, especially a young man named Ryan. Ryan was only 24, energetic, confident, always asking questions, always learning, always trying new ideas. One afternoon, Ryan walked over carrying a notebook. "Hey, David. I've been thinking about opening a small delivery company on weekends." David smiled. "That's a great idea." Ryan grinned. "I don't know everything yet, but I figured I'd learn as I go." For just a second, David froze. Those words echoed in his mind. "I'll learn as I go." They sounded strangely familiar, like the words he used to believe, before he started waiting for the perfect moment. David looked out through the warehouse doors as heavy rain poured outside. He didn't know it yet, but before the week was over, one unexpected phone call would force him to confront every year he had wasted and change his life forever. Thursday afternoon. The warehouse was louder than usual. Forklifts moved back and forth. Boxes rolled across conveyor belts. Employees shouted over the noise. David was checking inventory when his phone vibrated. "Mom calling." A small smile appeared on his face. His mother rarely called during work hours. He answered, "Hey, Mom." But instead of hearing her cheerful voice, he heard someone else. It was his neighbor, Mrs. Thompson. Her voice trembled. "David, you need to come to Seattle General Hospital." His heart skipped. "Why? What happened?" There was a long silence. Then she whispered, "Your mother collapsed this morning." For a moment, the world became completely silent. The machines, the voices, everything faded away. David grabbed his jacket without saying a word. As he rushed toward the parking lot, one sentence echoed through his mind. "Not Mom." Rain poured across the windshield. Traffic barely moved. David gripped the steering wheel so tightly, his knuckles turned white. Every red light felt personal. Every passing second felt stolen. Then, his mind began replaying memories. 6 months earlier, his mother had invited him over for dinner. "David," she said with a warm smile, "it's been weeks since I've seen you." "I know. I've just been busy." She nodded. "I understand. Come this Sunday. I promise." But Sunday came. His boss called, and David worked overtime. "I'll visit next weekend." Next weekend became next month, then another month, then another. 3 months earlier, she called again. "David, I found your old business notebook, the one from high school. You should come get it." David smiled. "I will. When?" "Soon." She laughed gently. "I hope your soon doesn't take another year." He laughed too. Neither of them knew. That would be the last real conversation they would have at home. David finally reached Seattle General. He ran through the automatic doors. His heart pounded. The smell of disinfectant filled the air. A nurse directed him toward the intensive care unit. Outside the room stood Dr. Reynolds. "Mr. Miller?" David nodded. "How is she?" The doctor took a slow breath. "Your mother suffered a serious stroke. We've stabilized her. But the next 24 hours are critical. David stared at the floor. His legs suddenly felt weak. The doctor placed a hand on his shoulder. "She's awake. You can see her." David slowly entered the room. The woman who had always looked so strong now looked incredibly fragile. Machines beeped softly beside her bed. Her left hand barely moved. But when she saw David, she smiled, the same smile she'd given him when he was a little boy. David sat beside her. "I'm sorry." Those were the first words he could manage. She gently squeezed his hand. "You made it." Tears filled his eyes. "I'm sorry it took something like this." His mother looked at him for a long moment. Then she whispered, "David, can I ask you something?" "Anything." "When are you going to stop waiting?" The question hit him harder than any doctor's diagnosis ever could. He couldn't answer, because she was right. He had waited to visit, waited to call, waited to chase his dreams, waited to enjoy life. He had always believed there would be another chance, another weekend, another year, another tomorrow. As David prepared to leave for the night, Mrs. Thompson handed him an old leather notebook. "I found this in your mother's bag. It's yours." David recognized it instantly. His business notebook, the one he'd created when he was 18. He slowly opened it. Inside were pages filled with dreams, company plans, goals, ideas, maps, sketches. Everything written in the neat handwriting of a young man who believed anything was possible. Then, a folded piece of paper slipped onto the floor. David picked it up. It wasn't his handwriting. It belonged to his mother. The letter read, "David, if you're reading this, it means life has probably become busy again. I know you've always wanted to build something that mattered. I know you're waiting until everything feels right. But sweetheart, life has never been about perfect timing. Remember when you learned to ride your bicycle? You were terrified. You fell over and over again, but you kept moving. That's how life works too. Don't wait until you're fearless. Move while you're afraid. Because courage isn't the absence of fear. It's deciding something is more important than fear. I don't care whether you become rich. I don't care whether people know your name. I only hope you never wake up one day wondering, what if I had tried? Love always, Mom." David couldn't hold back his tears. For the first time in years, he wasn't crying because life was hard. He was crying because he finally understood. No one had ever expected him to be perfect. The only thing people had hoped for was that he would begin. The next morning, David stopped by his apartment before returning to the hospital. As he unlocked the door, his eyes landed on a dusty cardboard box in the corner of the living room. Inside were dozens of notebooks, business ideas, course brochures, online certifications he had never completed, applications he had started but never submitted, dreams. Paused halfway. One notebook had a sticky note attached. It read, "Start Monday." Another read, "Next month." Another, "When I save more money." Another, "When I feel ready." David slowly sat on the floor, surrounded by years of unfinished beginnings. He whispered to himself, "How many versions of my future have I buried in this room?" Outside, the rain had stopped. For the first time in days, sunlight broke through the clouds. David walked toward the window. He looked up at the clear blue sky. Something inside him had begun to change. Not because his problems were gone, not because life had suddenly become easier, but because he finally realized the greatest tragedy in life isn't failing. It's spending your entire life preparing for a moment that never comes. And at that very moment, David made a decision. A decision so small, it didn't seem important, but it would become the first domino in a chain that would transform the rest of his life. The next morning, David woke up before his alarm. For the first time in years, he didn't reach for his phone. He didn't scroll through social media. He didn't watch another motivational video. He simply sat on the edge of his bed, holding his mother's letter. He read one sentence again. Don't wait until you're fearless. Move while you're afraid. He folded the letter carefully and placed it inside his wallet. This stays with me, he whispered, every day. At exactly 6:30 a.m., David opened his laptop. He stared at the screen. His fingers hovered over the keyboard. Normally, this was the moment he would close the laptop and tell himself, I'll start after work. But not today. He searched for a local evening business program. 3 courses appeared. His heart raced. What if I'm too old? What if I fail? What if everyone else is younger than me? The familiar voice of fear returned. Then another voice echoed in his mind, his mother's. Move while you're afraid. Without giving himself another chance to overthink, he clicked, Enroll now. The confirmation email appeared. Congratulations, your enrollment has been accepted. David leaned back in his chair. He smiled. It wasn't a huge victory. Nobody applauded. Nobody celebrated. But for the first time in nearly 20 years, he had done something immediately instead of someday. Later that afternoon, David visited his mother in the hospital. She was still weak, but when she saw him, she noticed something different. You look lighter, she whispered. David laughed softly. I enrolled in school. For a second, she simply stared at him. Then tears filled her eyes. I've been praying to hear those words for years. David squeezed her hand. I can't get those lost years back, but I can decide what I do with the years I still have. His mother smiled. That's all any of us can do. That evening, David unlocked an old closet in his apartment. At the very back, covered in dust, was a large cardboard tube. He opened it. Inside was the original blueprint for Next Horizon Logistics. The logo, the warehouse designs, the business plan. Every page carried the excitement of an 18-year-old who believed anything was possible. He spread everything across his dining table for hours. He studied his younger self's handwriting. Some ideas were outdated. Some were unrealistic. Some made him laugh. But one thing surprised him. The dream was still alive. It had simply been waiting. David smiled. No, he corrected himself. I've been the one keeping it waiting. A few days later, during his lunch break, David walked into a small coffee shop near the warehouse. As he waited for his order, someone called his name. David? He turned around. Standing a few feet away was Emily Carter. For a moment, time stood still. Emily had been David's college sweetheart, or at least she would have been. They had dated for 3 years after high school. She believed in his dream almost as much as he did. She used to spend hours helping him design his business plans. She was the one who drew the original company logo. Now, 15 years later, she looked older, wiser, but her warm smile hadn't changed. Emily, I can't believe it's you. They sat together. They laughed about old memories. After a while, Emily asked quietly, So, Did you ever start your company? David looked down at his coffee. No. I kept waiting. She nodded slowly. I figured. He looked surprised. You figured? Emily smiled sadly. David, you were never afraid of hard work. You were afraid of making the wrong decision. So instead, you made no decision at all. Her words stung because they were true. After a moment of silence, Emily reached into her purse. I've been carrying something for years. She placed a folded piece of paper on the table. David opened it. It was the logo they had designed together when they were 20. Across the bottom, Emily had written one sentence. Dreams don't expire. People simply stop believing they're possible. David looked up. You kept this? Emily smiled. I always hoped you'd need it someday. The following Monday, David walked into his first business class. His hands were sweating. Most of the students were younger. Some had just finished college. Others were already running small businesses. He felt out of place. As he looked around the room, a voice inside whispered, You don't belong here. He almost turned around. Then he remembered something. For 18 years, that same voice had convinced him to stay comfortable. Not tonight. He took a deep breath, walked to an empty seat, and sat down. The instructor entered, a middle-aged woman named Professor Lisa Grant. She wrote 6 words on the whiteboard. The hardest part is showing up. She turned to the class. Most people think success comes from talent. She smiled. It doesn't. It comes from people who keep showing up, long after everyone else has gone home. David felt chills. It was exactly what he needed to hear. Weeks turned into months. For the first time in years. David's life looked different. He worked all day, attended classes every evening, read books before bed, woke up early. Instead of watching motivational videos, he studied logistics. Instead of talking about business, he built business plans. Instead of dreaming, he acted. The progress was slow, sometimes painfully slow. There were nights when he wanted to quit. There were mornings when he questioned everything. But each time he felt like giving up. He opened his wallet, read his mother's letter, and kept moving. Not because he felt confident, but because he finally understood something. Confidence doesn't come before action. Confidence is born because of action. 3 months later, David received another phone call. This time, it wasn't from the hospital. It was from Professor Grant. David, I've been watching your work. There's someone I'd like you to meet. He's looking for someone with fresh ideas. David frowned. Who is he? Professor Grant smiled. A man named Robert Lawson. He built one of the largest regional logistics companies in the Pacific Northwest. He rarely mentors anyone. But after reading your business proposal, he specifically asked to meet you. David stood frozen. His heart raced. Could this really be happening? Or was it another opportunity he was about to let slip away? He looked at the letter inside his wallet. Then he smiled. This time, he already knew his answer. The following Friday, David stood outside a tall glass building overlooking Elliott Bay in Seattle. The sign on the front read, Lawson Logistics Group. He looked down at his reflection in the glass. His hands were shaking, not because he wasn't prepared, but because this moment represented everything he had avoided for nearly 2 decades. His old voice whispered one last time, Maybe you're not ready. He smiled to himself. Then he answered that voice out loud. Maybe I never will be. But I'm walking in anyway. And with that, He opened the door. Robert Lawson's office was surprisingly simple. No expensive decorations, no flashy awards, just shelves filled with books, maps, and photographs of delivery trucks from different stages of his career. A man in his early 60s stood by the window. "David?" "Yes, sir." Robert smiled warmly. "I've been looking forward to meeting you." David looked confused. "Looking forward?" Robert laughed. "You submitted one of the most honest business proposals I've read in years. It wasn't perfect, but it was real." They sat down. Robert picked up David's proposal. "I noticed something. You didn't write like a businessman. You wrote like someone trying to solve a real problem." David smiled. "I've lived those problems." Robert nodded. "Exactly." Then his expression became serious. "But there's something I need to ask you." David leaned forward. "Why did you wait so long?" The room became silent. David looked down. "I was afraid." "Of failure?" David slowly shook his head. "No. I was afraid that I'd give everything I had and still not succeed." Robert smiled. "That's the fear almost everyone has." He stood and walked toward the window. "You know, when I was 24, I failed. My first company collapsed. I lost my savings, my truck, my apartment. I even had to move back in with my parents." David looked surprised. "I thought successful people always knew what they were doing." Robert laughed. "Nobody knows what they're doing in the beginning. The difference is, some people move anyway." Robert walked to a small plant sitting on his desk. He pointed at it. "Do you know anything about bamboo?" David shook his head. Robert smiled. "When bamboo is planted, you can water it every day, protect it, care for it, and for years, it looks like nothing is happening. Many people quit. They think the seed has failed. But underneath the ground, the roots are growing. And one day, it suddenly shoots upward. Not because it grew overnight, but because it spent years building what nobody could see." He looked directly into David's eyes. "Your last 18 years weren't completely wasted. You learned. You worked. You observed. You matured. Now, it's time to grow." David felt tears forming. For years, he had only seen the time he had lost. For the first time, he also saw everything those years had taught him. Robert placed a folder on the desk. "I'd like to invest in your idea." David blinked. "I'm sorry." "What?" "I believe Next Horizon Logistics deserves a chance." David was speechless. Robert continued. "But there's one condition." David's heart pounded. "What is it?" "You have 30 seconds. David frowned. 30 seconds? Robert nodded. "Yes." "Tell me why I should believe in you." David closed his eyes. He thought about his mother's letter, about Emily's faith, about Ethan's advice, about the dusty notebooks, about the hospital room. Then he looked up. "Because I know what it costs to wait." Robert remained silent. David continued. "For 18 years, I believed preparation would protect me from failure. It didn't. It only protected me from progress. I can't promise I'll never make mistakes. But I can promise this: I will never again let fear make my decisions." The room fell silent. Robert smiled. Then he stood up, reached across the desk, and shook David's hand. "Welcome to your new beginning." Over the next 2 years, life wasn't easy. There were setbacks, long nights, rejected contracts, broken equipment, customers who said no. Weeks when David wondered if he had made a terrible mistake. But every problem taught him something. Every mistake made him wiser. Every small victory gave him hope. Slowly. Next, Horizon Logistics began serving local businesses across Seattle, then neighboring cities, then the entire Pacific Northwest. David never became the biggest company in America. That had never really been the goal. His goal was something much deeper: to stop living with regret. One bright autumn morning, David drove his mother to a hill overlooking Seattle. She had recovered remarkably after months of therapy. Walking was still difficult, but her smile had returned. David pointed toward a modern warehouse in the distance. On the side of the building, large blue letters read, "Next Horizon Logistics." His mother stared at the building, then at him. "You did it." David smiled. "No, we did it." She reached into her purse, pulled out an old photograph. It was a picture of 18-year-old David sitting on his bedroom floor, surrounded by business sketches. "I always kept this," she said. "I never stopped believing." David looked at the photograph, then back at the warehouse. "I wasted 18 years. His mother gently took his hand. "No, David, you lost 18 years. But don't waste the ones you still have." Those words settled deep in his heart. He realized something beautiful. You cannot rewrite yesterday, but you can write the next chapter. Years later, David was invited to speak at a graduation ceremony. Thousands of students filled the auditorium. He walked onto the stage carrying only one thing: his old leather notebook, the same notebook filled with dreams. He held it up. Then he smiled. "I carried this notebook for 20 years. I thought it contained my future." He paused. "It didn't. It contained my excuses." The audience became completely silent. He continued. "I kept waiting for confidence. I kept waiting for certainty. I kept waiting for the perfect opportunity. But life taught me something. The perfect opportunity isn't something you find. It's something you create by taking the first imperfect step." Then he looked across the crowd. "I want everyone listening to remember one sentence. One day is not a day of the week. If there's a dream in your heart, call that person. Submit that application. Start that business. Forgive that friend. Open that book. Say that prayer. Take that first walk. Because every day you wait, life keeps moving. But here's the beautiful part. As long as you're breathing, it is never too late to begin." Maybe you saw yourself in David. Maybe you've been waiting for the right moment, waiting for more money, more confidence, more time, more certainty. But here's the truth. The people who change their lives aren't the ones who have all the answers. They're the ones who decide that today is more important than someday. Years from now, you won't regret every mistake you made. You'll learn from them. But you may regret the chances you never took, the words you never said, the dreams you never chased, simply because you kept waiting. So, when this video ends, don't let it become another piece of motivation you forget tomorrow. Let it become the moment you finally begin. Because the price of waiting is far greater than the cost of taking the first step. And remember, your future is not decided by the dreams you have. It is decided by what you choose to do today.